Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, we're looking at diffusion of this powder keg situation. So, yesterday we did this reading that looked like it was kind of setting up for a very high pressure situation. And it was interesting because although you were moving into a place that looked like it was probably had the potential to be, even though you were experiencing some triggering, moving toward peace a little bit more quickly. With your person, things were definitely sort of ramping up. So in the extended, it looked like things started to get to a place where there was a potential to diffuse some of that situation, but not necessarily that it would be easy. So we're going to go on and understand a little bit more of what's happening in the situation and kind of what's happening with the energy today, because again, as a couple of you noted, there's been some change since yesterday's reading. So I get the notes from you guys, and although I can't respond to most of them, I do read them just as quickly. I try to keep up with them as much as I can. So this reading will be a continuation on the story that we've been seeing. So it'll be a general reading for this collective. And for that reason, it's really not going to resonate with everyone. But if it does resonate with you, you may want to take a look at some of the other stories or portions of the story as it's come along, messages that have come out from that, and just some of the things that have developed here recently, because it really does look like development in your person is the name of the game, but also development in yourself. And one of the reasons that you're kind of heading toward a place that is frankly inspiring your person. So we're going to start out with getting the energy around your person right now and kind of that energetic backdrop, that energetic and emotional backdrop. So not just necessarily what they're experiencing, but also the energy of what you guys are more or less swimming around in. That's what I mean when I say energetic and emotional backdrop. And let's see. I dropped a card, but it fell face down. All right, we have, good heavens, Five of Wands. Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of the Five of Wands here lately. It's a card of struggle, a card of not being exactly sure how to move forward, but something's got to come out somewhere. But we have the Eight of Swords. This is like an incredibly sure-footed sort of feeling. Eight of Swords is not a card of overthinking when you find it in the reverse like that. And we have the Sage. So this is new advice coming. Those of you who have been watching will know that there has been talk, especially in yesterday's reading, of some kind of person that's been giving advice, or that they've been receiving advice from, your person's been receiving advice from. And there was always kind of that, remember, there is the reminder that there's been a lot going on in your person's life. So it could be somebody that is like a counselor for alcoholism, or it could be a person that they go to that's the therapist, or it could be a trusted confidant, but it's somebody that's giving them information that for some reason isn't resulting in positive response. So either they are misinterpreting it, or the person is giving them bad advice, or it could be any number of things. There could be a disconnect, but they have decided, and we saw this starting to develop yesterday, they're deciding to take matters into their own hands, and not necessarily to disregard this person's advice, but to be able to say, let me temper this and make sense out of this in a way that actually relates to me. Because it could just be that the advice needs to come through the right lens. But here with this Eight of Swords, they're in a position to be able to do that. Thing is, it's like they're doing it under fire, you know. There is definitely this sense of there's a lot going on while they are learning these skills. And I know that under fire is a great way for some people to learn some things, but this person is not necessarily feeling like that's the case. It's making them want to retract in their emotions, and that's not the only thing making them want to retract. There's a resurgence of just a lot of passion they don't feel like they have time for right now, don't feel like they have the ability to control, and definitely don't feel like they would be successful in a situation were they able to employ it. They're not feeling like they're ready to move forward with whatever needs to happen. They're like, okay, not now, not now. I don't feel like I'm ready. This is not the right time. And so at this point, it's like, and we talked about this in some recent reading. It was about like you reaching out, but it depends on when you hit them as to what kind of conversation you'd be likely to have. In this energy, it's not a very fruitful kind of energy. This is a self-destructive behavior sort of energy, so not necessarily that they are engaging only in terrible things. Just there is a tendency towards some self-destructive behavior here, and in not understanding where they're going. So here's a card we haven't seen as much of lately, but it's never really left being with us. There's a lot of work that your person has kind of been working on finding themselves too. It's not even working on it. They haven't even been doing it. It's about, this is the quest where you figure out how to even start that work. Like they are far enough back, and I think we can all relate to that to a certain degree. They are far enough back that they have to kind of take stock of the entire situation and figure out what moving forward would even look like. What's forward, what's backwards, what's more of the same, what's making the same mistakes of the past, which if you guys have been with me, especially in yesterday's extended reading, I think it came out multiple times that they are very concerned about repeating the mistakes of the past. They see themselves as if from a bird's eye view here with the Judgment card, and there are a lot of things they don't like about what they see. So there's this need to kind of get themselves balanced, to get themselves to a place where they can say, hold on, let me get in a little bit closer. But they never seem to have the right amount of time for that. It always seems like things are moving too fast for them, and this is that wind of change. So this is the wheel. It's a wheel of change. It's also a wheel of chance. So what it brings is a fair amount of uncertainty, which you might welcome it if you're looking for something that's a new challenge. But if you're just trying to kind of get on your feet in the first place, the wind of change and challenge might be an extra challenge that is a little bit less welcome right now. So your person's got to get to a place where they can function even in that sort of situation. Eight of Swords has come out here again in the reverse, which is really, really positive, I feel like, and this Nine of Cups. So your person is not just hanging out here in consternation. So these cards, I feel like, could have come out anytime in the last month. This Eight of Cups, I'm still trying to figure out which direction to go so I can figure out what to put into place. This Judgment card in the reverse, I don't love what I'm seeing. The wheel card, it's happening anyway, But this is, hold on, I actually have some idea of what it is that I want now. Don't feel ready to pursue it exactly, but to know what it is still a pretty big step. With the Eight of Cups here, I would say that their ability to articulate that is significantly challenged. But the more they understand and the more they become kind of disconnected from what's been happening in their life that they've found less satisfying, the more they're going to be able to jump into something new. And so this is energy that you might even start to see unfolding in their current energy. So this is kind of what's happening with them. So let's now move into what is happening with the relationship overall. Because remember, we saw yesterday there was this powder keg situation happening with you, even though we saw it sorting itself out or potentially being diffused somewhat in the extended. But there was this pressure building up for them where they're dealing with something on their side ending that they didn't expect, and like I was saying, it's collateral damage from something that they did more knowingly. And it was something that they did sort of expect. And then there's been some additional response from that they now have to kind of work through. And that's working through it emotionally in some cases. So they're inspired by you. Remember, we saw that. They're inspired and a little bit scared by your growing ability to kind of navigate the world around you. And so it triggers like this imbalance between their desire to control and your ability to, and your willingness to receive. So like they can't just calm down and stop struggling and let the good things happen. Here is a person who has too many fears. And I talked about, having a hard time just letting go and enabling themselves to float, that sort of energy. So looking to see what's happening in the energy here, we've got the Six of Wands in the reverse. This is undecided energy. The Tower, it doesn't matter how undecided you are, this is going down. Huh. All right. Well, that's very definitive. Because we've seen, and I think was it yesterday? Maybe it was the day before. We saw the Tower card came out in the reverse twice, and it was very resistance. It was the day before. It was a ton of resistance to something that has to happen. We've seen a lot of this Chariot card, a lot of you're moving forward anyway, even if you're not sure about the direction that you're going. And so I would say that's kind of the energy of this relationship. Very much changing. The Tower brings change, but it brings change because things can just never be the same after this. It breaks it down into, it breaks you down sometimes into your parts, and then you have those pieces to kind of build yourself back up. But depending on how much of a foundation that you've built, the Tower doesn't, coming down does not necessarily have to be particularly difficult or bad thing. There is a need to change, though. We see here with the Chariot that feeling of you don't have to go in a particular direction, but you cannot stay in the place where you currently are. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I sometimes say that. Like the cry of the guy trying to close down the bar. Um, we have the Six of Wands here in the reverse, though, and the Six of Wands in the reverse has that feeling of where the Six of Wands in the upright is victory after a long battle. The Six of Wands in the reverse is we're still in the long battle. And that's very much the sense of how that came out when it first started happening. And then you see the lightning from the Tower and the Chariot. This is very action oriented, very forward moving, very hopefully forward. There is a potential to go kind of in a lesser direction, but with these Eight of Swords in the reverse, I don't see that happening. I actually see your person wanting to move forward, and so if you're able to do that as well, to move away from the places of fear and toward those places of growth, this stands to be a pretty significant moment for both of you, I would say. So we've got the Page of Wands energy holding both of you down. That is little bit of a depression that honestly, if you were able to compare notes on it, would give you strength. Don't know if you have the opportunity to connect at all. It wasn't necessarily recommended over here because of the sense that they might be a little bit standoffish and want to hold you at arm's length. But if you do happen to connect with them today, you may see some vestiges of that vulnerability that was wanting to come out before. But be careful what you wish for as far as that vulnerability, because if you get it, there is a lot that is to be learned here. With the Ten of Pentacles, this is significant changes being made in their house, but it's about the decisions that they're making right now that are kind of driving those. And here with the Queen of Cups, those decisions that they're making are not always necessarily being made from the right places. They've got some lessons they haven't yet learned with the Page of Pentacles and some things that they desperately need to let go of. So they're in the process of letting go, but things have not like balanced out yet. So they are definitely in danger of making some of the same mistakes from the past. And we were just talking about that. Okay, so with the Page of Pentacles, this talks about a lesson that they haven't learned, but I feel like it isn't completely that they haven't learned a lesson. This is that one that we were just seeing come out. Maybe it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where it was a lesson that comes out, and this is going to happen for both of you, but with two very different effects. In this case, in their case, the lesson comes out. They have the awareness around the right answer. But they're not quite able to put the lesson into play because they haven't truly learned how to assimilate it. They haven't connected the dots between those truths that are inside them and the lessons that they've learned. They're just kind of convenient sound bites at this point that until you get them into you, they don't really work very well. So that they don't protect very well against this difficult triggering. So your person finds themselves kind of coming in feeling like, oh, I've got a way to stay farther away, and they end up potentially being a little more vulnerable than they would want to be, and definitely a little bit less comfortable However, I do feel like they may potentially be able to finally let go of something which is a significant burden that they've been looking to set down and didn't exactly know how to do it. It's like they're trying to set it down, but their fingers are all sticky and it's like they can't unclench their hands. Um, and when I look at the Page of Cups here, there's a balance that hasn't come into place. So if you guys, some of you will have been around long enough to remember when televisions would, when you would have to fix the tuning on a television, otherwise the frame would go up and it would kind of flip. The TV would be flipping. It's what we called it, but it was basically the picture needed to kind of get centered, and so if this were to go up a little bit, then his feet would show and be in the frame properly. What we see here is that it kind of hasn't come into that tune here with it in the reverse. This is why they feel like it's not great timing to move forward with something right now, and everything feels a little discombobulated. But the deal is that it's like, when was that message? Maybe yesterday we get this kind of a ready or not, here I come. And it was like, that was your person's message to you. But it is also the universe's message to your person. Even if you don't feel like you're ready, you kind of are being put in a place. You are in danger of making the same mistakes. They are in danger of making the same mistakes that they have made in the past. I feel like it's pretty different this time because of their awareness of the overall situation, and that judgment card that we've seen come in the reverse so many times here, where they are able to have that kind of bird's eye view of over their lives, and they're able to see it, but they're able to also see things a little differently than maybe the way they ever have before, because of the healing that they've been through and the changes that they've done. So here's the concept of disappointment coming in again, but this is not just disappointment. This is boredom that comes also from that sense of depression that we saw up there. And it's something not happening quickly enough that your person doesn't even feel like they're ready for. So they are feeling like they want to hurry something along, but also feeling like they are afraid of it getting there. They need to be in control. This is very egoistic. King of Cups wants to be in control. It's the sort of feeling that says, it's the sort of mentality that says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Here's somebody who likes to be in control in that keeping your enemies closer sort of way. But there is a need for them to get in and understand this and several other things about themselves. So it's not so much that what's happening in them is inherently bad. It's more a matter of they are being asked to accept themselves exactly as they are, and that's a particularly difficult thing to do. That's a huge component of forgiveness, and that's a huge component of self-forgiveness, which is perhaps why they have been so disinclined to go into the thinking cave, because that's what they're going to come across. And the problem is that now they're being put in a place where they feel like they need to have already made that progress. Now, I'm not sure how real that is, but they definitely, once again, are feeling the fire lit under them to get something done very quickly that may or may not need to actually get done very quickly. Let's go to you. I feel like this is a fairly concise message. I'm going to leave this as is. I think we're not going to go to the extended on this one. If I get inspired to go to the extended on the you portion, I may do it. But at this point, I feel like those are the messages that kind of needed to come out there. But yeah, let's definitely talk about you. Let's talk about the situation where you find yourself and just kind of more. So I love this portion of the reading because it's where you're needing to be focused given what's happening over here, but there's always this common thread to it because it's still around the lessons that you're ultimately learning and the things that you're going through, and you're in kind of what looks like a more graceful place than probably it feels like. You have the Two of Wands here, and yeah, I definitely get that it looks more graceful than it feels. Don't spend a lot of time in this energy. Don't spend a lot of time explaining yourself because people aren't asking the questions you think they're asking. That's an interesting message. Let me see what I dropped here. Nothing face up. Everything fell face down. Okay. Yeah, we have the Temperance card that came out here again, which you got that yesterday. It was focusing on balance. And I would say, I would add, despite the fact that balance is not necessarily the strong point of this situation. In fact, with the Three of Wands here in the reverse, it may feel a little bit like challenges coming from all sorts of places, but I would tell you that this is probably more of a perception than you realize. So don't get too worried about whatever this is that feels like it's throwing you off balance or making you feel like you're really out of sorts. You don't look as out of sorts as it feels. So if you've got those your own King of Cups concerns about how it looks from the outside, I would say don't be too concerned about that. But with the Three of Wands in the reverse, though, this is more a perception of what you feel like you are behind on. You may discover when you really back up and take a look at the situation that you're in better balance. Then you realize it really has a lot to do, or you know what, I think what it's going to cause you to realize is how much it matters what lens you look through. So it depends on how far you go back. It may look like you are crazy discombobulated today, but when you zoom out, it's like character development in a movie, you know, and when you zoom out, you discover that this is queen energy that, yeah, might have been a little discombobulated and dropping stuff and, you know, not necessarily have everything together, but ultimately, like, it's fine. And even though it's like when you make a mistake and you aren't all that concerned about how it comes across because you're very comfortable with the situation where you made the mistake and you know that it will be perceived um, in a safe way, you know, and I feel like that's the energy that happens here, but you need to allow that within yourself and you need to recognize it within yourself. Also recognize that you're constantly going to be working for that emotional self-mastery. There's anxiety and there's emotional self-mastery, and they're constantly going to be kind of one-upping one another. So as long as you recognize that and you don't feel like anxiety should never come back because you've been working towards emotional self-mastery, like, recognize that it is going to be something that has a tendency to return periodically from time to time. We got the Two of Cups here. You're ready to enter into some sort of union. May not be the union with this person, because remember, we know we've got some other soulmates that are coming in. We know some triggering is happening for you. You are being encouraged to, this is like the partying sort of, not necessarily making the best decisions, but jumping in with both feet kind of energy. You're actually being encouraged to it to a certain degree, as long as you don't make it too crazy that you won't be able to do the damage control from whatever partying it is that you're doing. But this is a sense of you are going into a place where you have lessons to learn. You're going to figure out where you don't trust yourself. You're going to figure out the edges of your healing. That's something that's kind of more prone to happening right now. But with that Seven of Swords there, it tells me that you really do run into something that is as yet unhealed, but you can't get a good beat on it. It will run away from you. You cannot get a good beat on it until you loosen up in that Knight of Wands party sort of energy. So just a heads up there. It's going to come out when you least expect it. And when it does, you got to make sure that you reach out and grab it before it goes back in and, you know, hides until next time. And next time hides better because it knows you saw it. So if you've got something that you see needs to be addressed, you're going to want to go ahead and capture it, write it down, and then go back and read the things that you write down. But also going back and reading some of the things that you may have written down earlier in the situation with this particular soulmate may be especially helpful for that as well. So we have the Two of Swords in the reverse. A difficult decision, which was once a difficult decision, is no longer a decision. One of the options is no longer open. So a little bit ago, I saw the Sun in reverse there, and it felt like a missed opportunity. And I thought, do I lay this one on the table? This Sun in reverse. And I thought, do I lay this on the table? And I got the sense, no, the message isn't here yet. So this message starts to come out here with the Two of Swords and then confirms itself with the very card that I was talking about. It's a decision that ends up being a missed opportunity because the decision no longer is an option. The opportunity to make the decision is no longer there, is basically what it comes down to. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's with the Hanged Man here, a new opportunity, a new way to look at things that I think really shifts really shifts a lot for you. It shifts things for you such that this missed opportunity is like you're letting it go by. That is what I get here. You are knowingly watching it go by and saying, oh, okay, given what I now know with this hanged man, this new information, this new perspective, I don't want to jump into this. But there is something that you still need to resolve. So this is where you're going to want to dig in. There is where some triggering maybe occurs, and where you want to dig in there, and you're going to feel something that feels like shame, regret, something that you're afraid to say, afraid to talk about. This is going to be an opportunity to say it, talk about it, deal with it. If you do not take that opportunity, it will come back again, but again, it will disguise itself better next time. So if you allow it to come up and then you grab it when it arises, that's going to be your best bet for resolving it relatively quickly. Again, though, it looks worse than it is. You look better dealing with this than this would imply that you feel. So I did want to get you, I'm not going to do the extended, but I do want to do an oracle card for you. So usually I save the oracle card for the end of the extended, and we just kind of, here's the overarching message for you over both readings. So here it's the overarching message for you across this reading, but it's just kind of, it's a capper on the you portion of the reading when I do it this way, because it's advice that is very much relevant to you. So it says, see with your heart. The time is now to hear the messages. Okay, there is a message that has been coming up around red flags over the last couple of days, and this immediately pops into my mind now, so I'm just going to tell you. It's about seeing messages or about seeing red flags before they become too much of an issue. And become too difficult to extract yourself from a situation. So there's something here where you're going to want to get a good feel for something and hear the messages. The time is now to hear the messages. To hear the messages before you get to a place where you've made definitive decisions that are maybe not the right call and you have more damage control, or maybe it is an entirely missed opportunity where you would not be able to go back and make things right. So be watching for that. That's what those cards are great for, is just kind of letting you know, hey, here's something that is a way to look at something that is going to arise in your life. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. But thanks again for being with me, and we'll pick this up again in tomorrow's reading.